No matter how much of an individual each of us is, we all belong to communities. They are where we live, work, and learn. They are places of faith and places of friendship. Most of all, communities bring together many to form one. But not all parts of our communities contribute to society. Poverty, social problems, and lack of opportunity, especially jobs, often foster gangs, groups that work against our neighborhoods by creating fear and intimidation. Gangs provide a sense of belonging and opportunities for young people where families, schools, and employers have fallen short. How do we help our communities address gangs and their causes? In Milwaukee, the Restorative Justice Initiative of the Marquette University Law School is helping communities take back their own neighborhoods, to fight the causes and results of gangs, to create safe streets. Since May 2007, the Milwaukee Safe Streets Initiative has been bringing together residents, members of law enforcement, prosecutors, former offenders, faith organizations, and social service agencies in two areas, Milwaukee Police Department Districts 2 and 5. District 2 on the city's south side is predominantly Latino, and District 5 on the near north side mainly African American. They have historically been the base of some of Milwaukee's most active criminal gangs. Crime rates in many district neighborhoods are substantially higher than the rest of the city. Residents have experienced violent crime in higher numbers and for longer periods than other districts. Unemployment in these neighborhoods is higher than the city average, while educational attainment is lower. And in certain areas, more than 60% of residents live below the poverty level. Gang activity has thrived. Addressing these gangs and the conditions that cause them is the goal of the Milwaukee Safe Streets Initiative, which has received $2.5 million for coordination of governmental and community partners. Safe Streets is based on the idea that coordination among law enforcement, corrections, and neighborhood and faith-based organizations in a single concerted effort will have the greatest impact.
What we really want is the entire community to recognize the problem and then to take all of the resources that are available and focus them on that problem at the same time in the same place, which is a really tricky thing to do. And the core thing that really has to be done in terms of strategy is organizing the effort. There's a great deal of things going on out there, really great stuff that folks are doing, but it's helter-skelter. You know, there's a great program in District 5, there's a law enforcement effort in District 6 that's working well, and a community-based organization in another part of the city that's doing a great job. How do we get them all working on the same problem and going in the same direction at the same time?
It's all of us coming together, the faith-based individuals, the community agencies, the neighbors that live around that are involved in the block watches. Safe Streets Initiative is all of us coming together to dive in, to let those that are involved in these heinous crimes in the community, to let them know we are here. We're not here against you. We are here to help you. If you do not want to be helped, it's not just the law enforcement you're going to deal with. You're going to deal with the whole community.
When we come into a community, we come in there asking what the community needs, not assuming that we know what the community needs. And I mean, I grew up in the inner city, and in the inner city, even though we had violence and all these issues of poverty, there were still good people in that neighborhood, and those good people knew what they wanted. So restorative justice and safe streets basically holds that philosophy that we need to ask the community, what is it that you need? Let us give you the tools to make your community stronger.
The ultimate goal is to improve the quality of life in our communities. The immediate goals are to eliminate open-air drug markets, because open-air drug markets bring other crimes to bear: prostitution, violence, extortion. So one of the primary goals is to close open-air drug markets and build community around that. Sort of a weed and seed model. Law enforcement comes in and takes out the really bad guys, the guys with gun predators, and then the community prevention piece of it that Pauline and I worked with come in to try and restore some justice and try to create a balance between crime and community accountability.
For me, the two major differences between this initiative and a lot of other initiatives that have happened through the years is the heavy involvement of law enforcement and the business community. Social service agencies have often worked with corrections, and we've had that. But to have the major business community, the Rotary Club, the Greater Milwaukee Committee, and others on board saying, we know we have to provide jobs, we have to be there, and then to have law enforcement there at our circles and participating side by side with the neighbors.
The Restorative Justice Initiative at Marquette is playing an instrumental role in this effort by fostering the concept of restorative justice, a response to crime and the causes of crime that focuses on the harm done by offenders to individuals as well as on healing victims and their communities. While significant perpetrators of drug laws are targeted by law enforcement, for example, others are given a last chance. Offenders are shown photos of themselves buying and selling drugs, and given an ultimatum by the chief of police and others. They are then turned over to the community and provided resources for job training, drug rehabilitation, parenting, and education. Residents reinforce this call for transformation by expressing their support for offenders as they work to become productive members of the wider community.
And I think we're seeing some really good moves in the right direction. I don't think we've got as far as we need to go. I think we've got a long way to go still. But then we've had a long time of neglect in this city. We've kind of let things not go the way they should have gone. We have let things go. I think we're slowly but surely moving away from the let's get some federal money, do a 3-year project, do a poverty pimp game. And I hate to say it that way, but it's the truth. Play a game and get out of it. I think we're looking at some sustainability now in our programming and our efforts. That's why I like to call the Safe Streets and my own agency, my own program that I work with Safe and Sound, the Community Partners program, a strategy. You know, because we gain momentum, we build, and that's what it's all about. So
a lot of things we're doing are just common sense type things, but people are buying into. And that sense that we can all figure out how to work together better and organize the effort to work together better. And I think that's the key, is organizing the effort, not just saying we're all going to work together, but actually organizing it with these coordinators. You know, that's the success that we've seen so far.
The restorative justice idea is most evident in circles coordinated by Paulina DeHaan and Ronald Johnson, Marquette Law School community coordinators, who bring together the many governmental and social service agencies already operating in these areas. They work side by side with community target teams, which meet to discuss the needs and resources of designated neighborhoods, from reporting crimes to promoting positive behaviors. But it's the community talking circles led by Paulina and Ron that truly make the initiative unique. Police officers, crime victims, and those returning from prison join with local residents to discuss how offenders have hurt themselves and others, while police and prosecutors share their own stories of working on the street. Offenders benefit from being forced to deal directly with those who have been harmed. Victims benefit from being permitted to talk directly with those who have committed crimes. And the community benefits from the shared experience, since crime affects not only the victim and the perpetrator, but the community as a whole.
I would imagine that most indigenous peoples around the world before modernization probably communicated through circles. Before telephones and cell phones, we sat down in a circle and we talked about issues relevant to the community. And that's what a circle is. Our circles, we concentrate on men getting out of prison. So at each of our circles, we have 8 to 10 guys who have just mustered out of the system, federal prison, state prison, and then we include in that circle people who are who have been victims of crimes, a mother, a teacher, a preacher, resource people, and in the circle we talk and we listen. They're called listening circles. How often in American culture do we have an opportunity to actually listen to each other or to be heard without interruption? So a circle is a community talking and listening to each other on a given subject.
I would describe the circle process as something that comes from the heart. I would describe it as the community truly coming together to make a difference. I would also describe a circle as something that's rather intimate, sometimes intense, but very relieving.
We've come at this often with the sense that we are going to change the community. And the circle gives you the realization that we're all part of the community and we have to change along with it. And so the law enforcement folks need to change the way we do business and the way we perceive the community. At the same time, the community needs to change their perception of law enforcement and how we work together. You know, the circle to me is a means to an end. It's a means to really begin some dialogue, to break down some barriers, and to figure out how to work together.
In this case with Safe Streets, we've been looking at the violence. Let's talk about what everybody's experience is with the violence so we understand it. Just like in South Africa during the Truth and Reconciliation hearings, you hold it up, people have a chance in a circle to talk about their own stories. So part of it is recognition of who's been harmed and what is the harm, and then it's rolling up your sleeves to say, how do we repair this harm?
The Milwaukee Safe Streets Initiative was begun with the premise that the enemy in our neighborhood is violence, not the community where it takes place. The work of law enforcement and corrections officials, schools and churches, employers and social workers to address gangs and their causes will not succeed without the glue of a community. An all-inclusive, community-driven model based on restorative justice has begun to reclaim troubled streets, rebuild communities, and give gang members alternatives.
When I go into the neighborhoods that I grew up in, into the south side of Milwaukee, and I see those young kids, you know, running around in the street, not in the street, but playing outside, I see myself. And I don't want kids to grow up in the same type of violence that I did. So that's what motivates me. It motivates me is that the future generations, you know, can live in a better neighborhood. And I actually see it. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel with this project.
I guess I've learned that it is possible for the city to work together and actually, if not defeat, corral this problem of crime and violence in our communities. I now believe that we know how to do it. We have the resources. We don't need a whole bunch of extra money. We have the resources, we have the knowledge, we have the talent, and what we probably lack is the will and the determination. But we have examples around the country, like in Boston and Red Hook, New York, that we know how to do this.
You know, for me, I find my joy in helping people. It's really that simple. And so I try to follow that passion. And I find there are different ways to do that. But restorative justice, working in the community, and teaching, and they're both important, are very important to me. Because it's one thing to sort of have all these little successes but not teach the next generation of lawyers or the next generation of leaders. Because someday I won't be doing all this and others won't be doing that, so we have to make sure it's spreading. And it is so exciting for me to hear the communities doing their own circles, which is absolutely the idea. We're just there to help because we have the knowledge of how the process, but this is the communities, and they conduct those processes however they can. And you know, it's just incredibly rewarding to have that opportunity, and really a privilege to walk into people's lives and to partner with them on trying to deal with some of the violence and hurt that's going on, particularly in our central city.
Led by the Restorative Justice Initiative of the Marquette University Law School, many are becoming one. On the north and south sides of Milwaukee, communities are joining to help each other, help themselves, and create safe streets.